global evil, we would have never courageously overcome the wickedness of the Third Reich that led to acts of preemptive murder in Europe, Asia, and Pearl Harbor. Right. We reject the suggestion that we don't have what it takes. If we decided that we didn't have the numbers, the resources, or the momentum to follow our Constitution in the 1950s, we would have never overcome adversity together with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other brave Americans in pursuing Dr. King's dream in the 1960s and beyond. Woo! And we reject the notion that America accepts a socialistic way of solving problems. If we decided to accept socialism as a common denominator for us in the world, we would have never watched President Ronald Reagan asked Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down that wall of communism and then watch it fall in Berlin years later. We are a nation that is one of a kind, not one that kindly asks to be one just like everybody else around the world.
Wow.
All right, wow. All right.
Incredible, incredible. Here's this young man, powerful, and packaged really well because he's a beautiful young man. You know, it looks like that's a extra young Obama up there. Some might compare you to. Have you been called that before? A little, a little mini me of the Republican side of the Republican.
I had people tell me that when I was at the First State of the Black Union last year. As a matter of fact, I made a joke about it. I basically told folks at a Lincoln Day dinner that I've been compared to a recent president because of my ears, right. And I went on to explain that. After much ado, that although I have these big ears, I do not, in fact, look like any way, shape, or form President George W. Bush.
I love that. I love that.
So, yeah, I get it from time to time.
So let's get started. Before you came out with the book, you are part of the family at HipHopRepublican.com.
Yes.
A blog community out of New York, and you're not out of New York. You're basically out of North Carolina.
Charlotte region, North Carolina.
Charlotte regional, North Carolina. Excellent.
Now, having grown up in Pittsburgh, though, Lenny, how did you end up in Charlotte?
You ever play baseball in the snow in May? When it's time to choose a college and play baseball in college, it's I can continue to stay in the snow in May in Pittsburgh, or I can find someplace a little warmer. And Davidson College was a lot like my high school, my alma mater, Shadyside Academy. I was a scholarship student there at Shadyside Academy, and Davidson reminded me a lot of Shadyside, the best of both worlds, where you had academic competition with some of the leading leaders now in the world. For example, one of my classmates is now the mayor of Charlotte, Anthony Fox.
Okay.
Somebody that I came into the freshman class at Davidson College with. And I have another classmate by the name of Michelle Sweeting, who is one of the lead support attorneys for appellate court judge in Brooklyn, New York. Okay. And there's other world leaders that you go to school with at Davidson College. And, you know, I come from humble background, and my mom and my dad, they're not college educated, but they believed in education. So it was important for me to continue to move on with that. So between that and the fact that North Carolina, when I was still pitching, had an opportunity.
You were an athlete. I wasn't going to let you slide past that part because you were an athlete. You were an athlete coming up and participated in sports, and that was part of your whole being there too as a youth. Okay.
Absolutely. I had an opportunity to play baseball in college, and so I wanted to play someplace warm, someplace where they played against some of the best competition in the country, and Davidson College does that, as the 2008 Elite Eight Davidson Wildcats proved to us a couple years ago, and now Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors is representing DC. So
you're just plugging away, aren't you?
Small school, but
that's his association.
I know.
Now wait, you guys, I got some surprises too still about the brothers, because I like to show people when they have these diverse backgrounds, you so rarely get to hear about it. But let me tell you something else about this brother. In the 1994, the Pittsburgh Steelers were really expected to go to the Super Bowl, except they got kicked out of the playoff game by San Diego.
Yes.
But at that time, there were some people putting together a song.
California team.
Well, there you go. Well, there were some people putting together a song for the expected to be Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl champions. And guess who participated in the writing of that song? Young Lenny McAllister.
Yes, I did.
Let's do a slip of history.
It was the day after my birthday. They played the championship game, I believe, on January 15th, 1995. My birthday was on a Friday, and I was a music producer at the time. And so what I used to like to do for myself on my birthday was go in and record a song at a studio called Audiomation. And Audiomation at the time was one of the leading studios on the East Coast. They had everybody from MC Ren to Dr. Dre to Rusted Root, who recorded "Send Me on My Way" for the song Ice, for the movie Ice Age. Other leading bands both in Pittsburgh and throughout the East Coast used to record there, and I had some inroads there. So I recorded a song and was told the opportunity. We ended up spending the night there from Saturday at 3 or 4 in the afternoon until game time, which was around 12:30 that Sunday. And we recorded 5 different versions of the song. They told us what the sales were going to be, and they told us, I mean, I literally had my parents' house paid off and had my daughter in college. And the Steelers led for 55 minutes out of 60 minutes of that game.
Wow.
So you talk about the city of Pittsburgh being heartbroken. My heart was a little bit more crushed than a lot of people in the city that day, indeed.
But it's because of these creative endeavors that it really helped you politically, because by then taking those steps to become writing a piece, tell me a little bit about that first piece you wrote for the Davidson the newspaper that kind of got you going, I guess.
Wow. It's interesting. You talk about Davidson College.
The
reason why I talk about Davidson College so much is because my motto is, I found a new life. I found my best friend and my wife at Davidson College. So
Davidson College in Davidson, North Carolina.
Exactly. And ironically enough, the piece that you're referring to, Mario, was a piece I wrote on my wife's birthday. I mean, obviously she wasn't my wife then. It was March 2nd, 1992. And it was.
You want to give a shout out to your wife? What's her name?
Lenny McAllister. Lenny McAllister. And back home with.
Was that attractive to you when you found out you had a woman you're interested in named Laney, and your name is Lenny?
It didn't really hit me until we put the names together. Until we got married, so realizing that, and then our life story is so unique. I want to get back to Mario's story, but to answer your question first, our marriage was a 10-year journey to come together. I mean, we were friends and ended up dating other people. I was married previously, and then to go through all these rigmaroles, and then as I came to start getting my life back on track, finished a 13-year journey for that 4-year degree, and there she was. And she's been my biggest advocate, my best friend. She believed I was going to be in politics years before I got into politics.
Oh.
And so to have somebody like that, it's just been powerful. So the name goes in.
Going back to his piece, though.
So March 2nd, 1992 was a response on campus because there was a lot of racial tension on the Davidson College campus at the time. And basically what I was trying to do was recap why Black History Month meant so much. And all it was saying was, look, we have pride as African Americans in Black American heroes, just as we do with other American heroes, and it's important to highlight this. And it came right before the Simi Valley verdict around that time. So it created a lot of controversy on campus. It led to some death threats that a lot of my classmates didn't know about, and some other threatening type of phone calls and dropped off notes and things along those lines. But it gave me a perspective as a kid that didn't come from a lot, being at a school that at the time was traditionally Southern, pretty wealthy, etc. Davidson is considered the Princeton of the South. So it gives you an idea of what kind of culture and type of clientele generally was there. Now, of course, they're more inclusive, but to go through those things and say, look, these are things that I stand for in the midst of some opposition, gave me a leanings into learning what it was like to take a stand on things, whether or not it's popular, making sure that you're saying the right things, try to say it respectfully, and know that you're still going to get some opposition regardless.
I guess my issue is this. You're a black man, right?
Yes.
African American.
Yes.
Person of color.
Yes.
Pretty boy.
I don't know about that.
You consider yourself a light Negro. Don't answer that question.
She was dragging you into that.
I
That
know.
was the
That's what I
setup.
recent
Don't fall for
controversy.
it, Lenny. It's a trap.
Paul. This is my question to you. How did you become a Republican?
Well, I've always been conservative.
Okay.
My parents.
So are there conservative Democrats? Democrats
They're
are
definitely
saying,
blue dog
independents
Democrats.
are saying,
They're conservative Democrats, and some would say, well, maybe you should have just stayed a conservative Democrat. But when you look at issues such as the pro-life issue, I mean, when you have a child of 21, you obviously are a pro-lifer. I mean, because it's nothing like having it in your face. You start looking at fiscal things, the level of education, pulling yourself up and doing things on your own, not having government be involved. My dad was talking about school tax in the early 80s. And he talked about how he would never send us to a public school. He didn't believe in the education quality of the public schools where we lived, and how he couldn't understand why he was paying taxes to go to a school system that wasn't doing the job that they needed to do.
Okay.
So you have those type of tenets already built into my background.
right, to
Born
the
and raised
foundation of
Catholic.
who you are.
And then when you get to a point in time where you're willing to move aside from stereotypes and say, where do I really align? That's when I looked and said, you know what?